Hello, my name is Sam Potter and I will be presenting my gender portfolio, which is based on my real-life experiences. I identify as non-binary and trans-masculine, so I do not feel like a woman or a man. I feel somewhere in between, but I prefer a masculine presentation. I prefer masculine clothing, such as more loose-fitting clothes and styles that are usually categorized as men's clothes, but there are things about my style that still might be considered more feminine, such as slimmer jeans, but not too tight, bright colors, and an affinity for pink. I very much so prefer my hair how it is now. I used to have long hair that I wore in a ponytail every single day, and then I cut it to about here so that it would fit into a small bun, but could be styled masculinely. And then about a year ago, I cut it to here, and I'm very happy with it and plan on keeping it around this length for a while. My birth name was Samantha Elizabeth Potter, but my name moving forward is Sam Potter. I'm still working on a middle name, but I want to keep my initials the same. When coming out, the first people I told were friends that had similar feelings about their identities, but I don't remember exactly who I told first. The first person I told everything to, including the changes I wanted to make to my body, was my partner, who has been very supportive. I told my family in stages. I told one of my brothers as we were driving home from Los Angeles, and it was terrifying. It got hard to breathe, I was sweating, my feet and legs were tingly, and I was having vision changes, but he ended up being pretty accepting and told me he loved me. I told my older brother that same day when he FaceTimed me to ask about my brother and my trip. Telling him was much easier because I had already told him a little about my identity about a year before that, and he is also gay, so he has a bit more of an understanding of the trans community. I also told my brother-in-law that same night when he got home from work, and he and my brother were super supportive and excited. They even sent me money to cover the costs of my first couple months of hormones. I told my parents a couple months later by getting them in the same room and starting the conversation, and then handing them a letter that detailed what I wanted to say because I knew I was going to cry. I had a list of resources prepared for them because I expected it to be difficult for them, but they were understanding and supportive and asked me questions. Getting into the logistical portion, name and gender marker change stuff will really depend on a court-ordered date and gender change. So I will need to fill out the paperwork and get approval from a surgeon, pay a fee, go to court, publish an ad in the paper, and then have the hearing. After that, I can use the court-ordered name change to get my social security information, birth certificate, passport, school and bank records, and credit reports changed to be accurate. All of these come with more paperwork and most of them with more fees. The DMV process is a little bit easier as I won't need the court-ordered name change and gender change first. I can just submit their paperwork with a form signed by a doctor and pay the fee to get a new driver's license. When it comes to work, I've only come out to one person because he was correcting a child for calling me a boy, but I told him I'm not a girl either, so I would rather the kids call me whatever they feel most comfortable with. In the near future, I will have identification that will help me with talking to people at work right off the bat, and I will present much differently, which I hope will make me feel more comfortable about my identity, talking about my identity. Most recently, my social groups have been centered around and created for non-cisgender identities, so finding acceptance there has been very easy. I am the facilitator of a youth group in Napa for non-cisgender people, so I get to foster an inclusive and accepting place. In the future, I plan on only really talking about my identity as needed, for example, if I'm being misgendered. I will expect respect from others, and I will ask for it when I'm not given it. And if the disrespect continues, I may have to consider leaving the group. When I'm out and about, I use gendered bathrooms whenever possible. If those are not available and it's urgent, I use the women's bathroom, but it makes me really anxious, especially when I'm binding, because I've had bad and uncomfortable experiences in bathrooms. So when I use a women's bathroom, I get in and out as quickly as possible while keeping my head down. I haven't needed to use a locker room in a very long time, because I come prepared to avoid the need for a locker room. Right now, if I absolutely had to, and there wasn't a gender-neutral locker room available, I would use a gender-neutral bathroom or women's locker room. But later on in my transition, that might change to the men's locker room. However, I won't use the men's locker room until I feel I could protect myself in a bad situation. I plan on starting hormones and getting top surgery to align my body with how I see it. I was able to get a prescription for hormones from Planned Parenthood, which with a coupon cost me about $50 for 2 months of low-dose hormones. I will be getting surgery done with Dr. Scott Mosser in San Francisco. With insurance, I will only have to pay about 20% of the $8,500 bill. That can also go all the way up to $10,000. But it's unclear if he is an out-of-network provider, and if he is, the cost will be significantly greater. I plan on starting hormones after I find out my surgery date in a couple of weeks, so I can decide how long I want to be on hormones before surgery. I will be on low-dose testosterone, so the changes will be gradual. Hormones come with increased risk of heart attack or stroke, getting diabetes, or having high blood pressure or cholesterol. It is unknown if testosterone hormone therapy affects cancer risk. However, the doctors have assured me that these are uncommon side effects and monitoring is done to ensure I'm not at risk. I believe the benefits to my mental health heavily outweigh the potential risks. I have had many fears along the way, including fears about how far I would want to transition, how my family and friends would react, if I would ever be accepted and understood. And once I overcame fear, I was usually replaced with another one. These fears have been replaced with the worry of whether I will regret any of my actions, anxiety over whether I will be a different person on hormones, and concern about if I will be happy with my top surgery scars. These worries only creep in every once in a while, and I'm usually able to rationalize my way back to being excited, but they are there. My most common and lasting fears are not being accepted by the general public, being outed in a dangerous situation, or being discriminated against for my identity. I try not to think about these fears much, but they are something I always carry with me. My biggest challenge to transition was coming out to my family and getting them to support and understand my need to transition. This step in the process is now thankfully behind me, but I was certainly the most concerned about that. Another big challenge was getting a letter of support for surgery. In a couple weeks, I will get a date and quote for surgery, which are my next challenges. I have to figure out how to save enough money for surgery, and right now that seems like a tall order because I am unable to work because of COVID and the bill seems so elusive. Once the money is raised, having surgery and recovering will be one of the last big challenges for me. These are just the barriers in my way, but there are also challenges to getting proper documentation and challenges related to safety that I have not focused on. Cultural issues I've run into have mostly been centered around the more conservative views of the community I grew up in. I have carried a lot of anxiety and fear about being who I am because I do not see Napa as the most progressive and accepting place. While I do think we are making progress, it is clear we still have a long way to go. I still have concerns about my extended family, my neighborhood, and my community, but I am hoping they will show themselves as more supportive than I am expecting. Thank you for listening to my gender portfolio. It was interesting to reflect on these questions and see how far I've come even since the beginning of this class. Thank you for being great classmates, and I look forward to exploring your portfolios as well. Bye.